Hi there. So for those of you who don't know me, my name's Emily. I am a artist and writer, and I used to have my own comics quite a while ago. Not anymore. It seems they're a lot harder to get a hold of. Maybe I'll try to publish my comics again in the future. So my website and my published copies kind of, I guess, expired. It was harder to keep up with it. But so the main reason I'm making this video, though, is to discuss my meeting with Gabriel Ba yesterday. So I went to, yesterday was Mother's Day, which is always a really, really hard time for me because my mother passed away in 2006. But TCAF, which is the Toronto Comic Arts Festival, falls on Mother's Day. And it's a beautiful event. It's one of my favorite conventions in Toronto. And I mean, I do love comic conventions in general, but I just really love to see independently done comics, and because that's basically what I used to do. And I say used to a lot of the time, but it doesn't mean that I'm never going to do it ever again, you know? So I met Gabriel Ba, who is the artist behind Umbrella Academy, the comic books. And he seemed like a very quiet, sweet man. And I was also fortunate to meet his brother, because his twin brother, was right there, so Fabio Moon. He is also an artist and a writer. And I feel like they do partner up and make comics and stuff together. And they seem to be a very nice pairing, which is very sweet to see, because I mean, I have a few friends who are artists and twins, and that's not always the case. The siblings are not always willing to work with the other sibling. So I find this really, really cool that that I got to meet both of them at the same time. So I was extremely nervous to meet, Gabriel, and again, he was very nice, but he seemed to be a little bit annoyed when I actually told him, I'm like, I'm an artist. I used to do comics a long time ago, and I guess it was the used to that really struck him. And he said he basically was, doing a signature and drawing a little bit in the books. I can show you that in a moment. He's drawing in the books, and he kind of looked up and said, why don't you do comics anymore? And I guess I was sort of taken aback, because I was like, number one, I was already nervous talking to him, because I really connected with Umbrella Academy so strongly. And I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. I was just kind of like, well, I'm a textile artist, and I showed him, what I was wearing. Like, this is the art I do now. And I guess there's not as much weight to textile artists, or being a textile artist, as much as when you're a comic artist, and I don't know if they really understood what I meant by that. So I think I'm going to talk about it a little bit more here, because it's something that I've sort of skirted around the topic of a few times with people. Most people don't really understand why I sort of quit being a comic artist. And I didn't really fully quit. I always think I can go back to it at some point or another when I'm ready. But at the time when I quit, I wasn't quite, I didn't know why I was being a comic artist. It was a very confusing time for me. I was using my writing and my art as a form of therapy, and I didn't realize that at the time. I just thought, this is something I love to do. I really enjoy it, and I'm going to immerse myself in this. And I've always loved doing this, even as a child. And so when I kind of stopped doing the comics, I got extremely depressed. I got into a very obvious depressive state. And I thought maybe it's because I forgot, or I just, for some reason, I'm not desiring doing the comics anymore. And I ended up getting some therapy and realizing slowly that I was using my comics as a form of distraction from my actual past. And, with my mom passing away and a whole bunch of other traumatic incidences that have happened when I was younger, I was avoiding the past and honestly the present and even the future um, of my life. And with my writing and my art, I wasn't really using it honestly either. I was kind of just making up a story that I wanted to hear. That and it's sort of making a little bit more sense of my confusion of myself, I suppose. But I still felt extremely confused as to, why I felt certain ways. And I kind of wanted to explore the why. And I guess I didn't really want to get into this with Gabriel, though he seemed interested. And I'm sure he would have been interested if I went into it further. However, there was a big lineup behind me in, just waiting to like meet both the twins. So I just decided I'll just say something quickly and thank him for his time and move on, so, but yeah, so I ended up, kind of coming to this realization, I guess, later too, that, I guess, I do miss comics. I do miss making comics. I do miss writing them. I do miss doing the art for them. I think once I get to a place where I feel like my writing and my art, needs to be, I'm starting to really, really love my art a lot more than I used to. And before I was kind of like in a state where I'm like, I don't care. I'm just gonna like learn to grow as an artist and just draw and put things out, and hopefully people like it. Hopefully, they get something from it. And I did get a slight fan base. Again, I was just self-publishing, so it wasn't like a huge deal. But I wasn't pursuing it super professionally like maybe Gabriel would or his brother, and so I didn't outright quit. And I hope that Gabriel understands that if he ever comes across this video. I don't know if he ever will, but like I hope he understands that I really, really admire that he kept going and he is the artist that he is. And I also feel like his art and Gerard Way's writing, they marry themselves so well. Like they're both so honest, the writing and the art, and it just sort of comes together so nicely. I just wanted to say that to him, and I didn't have a chance to because I was just so nervous and I was very shy. And my husband spoke up a few times just because he noticed I was being so quiet, which is unlike me sometimes. But when I meet somebody that is so important to me, like a celebrity that I never think I'm going to meet, or like a really, really cool artist or writer, I get very tongue-tied. And even with like close friends of mine in the comic industry, I'm sure a lot of people think that I'm very odd because I'm always like, hey, how's it going? And then I kind of run away. But I'm just I am a very pensive person. I am an introvert. I mean, that's how I can write and draw so well now, I guess, because I do like to have time to myself. But I mean, I do value that and I spend time doing that. But yeah, I just really, really wanted to meet Gabriel, and I really wanted to like let him know how important he was to me, and and how important even Gerard Way, if he ever comes across this too. I just wanted to say how important what they did as a project is. Like, I just want to say how important it is to talk about trauma, and it's a very, very cool thing. So I also said very, very quickly when I was leaving, I said, I very much connected to Vanya. I was going to say, very much connected to Vanya before she kind of wanted to blow up the world. I felt like I was a very confused, empathetic soul, and felt very useless, and felt like I think it was a sequence here I'm going to show you guys. And I wanted to talk about this with Gabrielle as well. Where is the sequence? It's somewhere. I should have bookmarked it before this thing. This is it. This whole piece here. I don't know if you guys have the Umbrella Academy. This is backwards here, so you can't really read it properly. But if you guys have the Umbrella Academy, if you can flip to page, let's see what page this is. Does it have page numbers anywhere near this? This is in chapter 4. This is like a few pages into chapter 4. But basically, Vanya is shouting, "I don't belong here." She says, "I don't belong here." And then Pogo comes in to sort of like comfort her, I guess. And he said, she goes, "What do you want?" And he goes, "I heard a noise. What's wrong?" And she says, "I'm useless," which is actually a word or a phrase that I've used quite frequently to describe myself. And she says, "I'm so worthless. There's nothing special about me. I'm not like the others. I can't do anything." And he says, "You're right. You're not like the others. You don't need to destroy things to prove yourself. You are special." And, they hug at the end. And I ended up full on, when I first read that, full on crying and just sobbing. And, the art was so beautifully done. And the words were so beautiful. And I just wanted to tell Gabriel and Gerard, if he's listening, that that was such a profound piece in the book, the first book. And in general, I found there's so many profound pieces. It was so lovingly crafted, the whole series, just the whole comic series, the whole series on TV so far. I mean, there's only been one season coming out so far. Maybe there's going to be more, and who knows what's going to happen in the future. But the story is so important, and I believe that it's going to help so many people kind of confront what happened to them as children and mature more when they figure out what happened to them and sort of understand that aspect of their life. So I really, really feel like psychologically you guys got it right. It's extremely accurate. It's really beautiful, really well done. And I also felt like Vanya because, she's so connected to the violin. She just, immerses herself in the violin, and just the same sort of way that I immerse myself in art. And, I felt very connected to her in that respect as well. Not just because she's such a sweet, empathetic person that, she doesn't understand why people reject her and that sort of thing. I do understand that part of her as well. So, and I see other people in my life resemble some of the other characters, and I just think that that's so fantastic that you were able to capture the misunderstandings that each sibling may have with each other. Even though they all grew up in the same environment, you think that they would all understand each other, but they all have their own separate problems. And I think that is a very fascinating story to tell, and a very important, as I said, story to tell. So thank you so much for speaking with me, Gabrielle. I know that it was kind of forced upon you because I was just a random person in the lineups just coming to see you, but I meant to talk to you further, but I just didn't have a chance to. And again, I didn't want to disrupt the people in the lineup and take up too much of your time. So, but it was very lovely meeting you and your brother. Your brother was a very sweet person as well. And I think I'm hoping that you guys have a very successful long career together and working together to get together and separately. Like I think that that's wonderful that you guys can do that. So I also wanted to just show the really cool, signature that, if this is backwards again, the signature that Gabriel did for me, and the little drawings. They're so cool. So that was my first book. And then this is my second book. So very cool, very cool. Thank you so much, everybody who's watched this video. And I really hope you have a lovely day. And if you haven't watched Umbrella Academy or read the books, definitely do. Such a cool story, and so amazing, and just very different, and talking about something that's so important in this world that we need to discuss a lot more. Okay, so thank you so much to Gabriel, his brother, Gerard, everybody who went to TCAF, and just people who enjoy the Umbrella Academy. I hope that I have some kindred spirits out there watching it and reading it with me. Okay? Take care, everybody. Bye.